Court has called the cases of the People versus Blue.
Your Honor, just for the record, I need to make a record. I'm very thankful that Your Honor gave me a few minutes to speak with my client. My client informs me he has not heard most of what's going on here. He respectfully asked that I ask the court to adjourn these matters so he can be present in the court. For the record.
I don't need a response, Ms. Reiser. I will just indicate I have stated my reasons why he's not being permitted into court. He has heard the proceedings. To the extent he has not heard the proceedings, it may be because of his behavior in the jail. That is not anybody's fault. And so I am not adjourning these proceedings.
Your Honor, I know you made your decision, but just to clarify a little bit, he's claiming that the person in the next cell or room is just continually screaming for what that's worth.
That may be his own voice he's hearing.
Okay.
But the deputies had indicated that this proceeding could be heard by Mr. Blow. And so I believe that to be the case. And so we will continue. Any other things for the record, Mr. Kilowold?
No, that about covers it.
Okay, real good. All right, Mr. Reiser, call your next witness.
We'll call Deputy Alex Phillips.
Alex, A-L-E-X, Phillips, B-H-I-L-L-I-P-S.
You may inquire.
Thank you, sir. Can you tell the court where it is that you're employed
The Washington County Sheriff's Office,
and in what capacity?
Road Patrol Deputy.
And were you working on August 21st, 2022 in your capacity as a road patrol deputy?
I was
And were you dispatched to, is it Boston's?
Bozeman's.
Rosen's Way, apartment A1?
I was
And approximately what time did you receive that dispatch?
22:59 hours.
Is it 10:59 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the nature of the dispatch?
I was initially called in as an assault. Delayed a little bit, suspect not no longer on scene.
And who, if anyone, did you make contact with when you arrived at the scene?
Tiffany Blaisdell and Marshall Brown.
And did you speak with both of them about what had occurred?
I did.
Okay. And what was Miss Blaisdell's demeanor?
Horrified, frantic, very emotional.
As she described what happened?
She did.
Okay. And did you see any injuries on or about her person?
Yeah, she had several.
Okay. And could you describe those over the court what they were?
She had a lot of swelling in the cheekbones on both sides of her face. I believe the left side of her face had a large fist-shaped bruise, what looked like a scab forming on the cheek as well, bruise on one of her arms.
And based on your information that you obtained from Mr. Marshall and Ms. Blaisdell, had the assault just occurred, or was there a delay in the report?
There was a delay.
And approximately what time, based on your investigation?
Approximately 0500 hours in the morning until approximately 1700 that evening.
And was the suspect on scene?
No.
And did you have information about who the suspect was?
Yes, she positive.
Your Honor, that's a hearsay statement.
I don't believe the identity of the suspect is hearsay.
Yeah,
It's coming from the victim.
I understand that, but that would go to his state of mind as to what may be his next action. So I'm overruling the objection.
Did you have information on the identity of the suspect?
I did.
And who was that?
Jeffrey Wayne Bloom.
And he was not on scene.
Correct.
And were you able to locate him that evening or the next morning hours of your shift?
I was not. My partners were.
Okay. And did you provide that information at briefing or to any other police officers?
I should have covered everything, yes.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Cross-examination.
Just a couple questions, Your Honor. Officer Phillips, when you went there on the 21st, you discussed, you spoke with Ms. Blaisdell, correct?
Yes.
And you were one of the officers that took her aside, correct?
Yes.
And based on what she said, you wrote a report, correct?
Correct.
And I would like to show you. I just lost it. And you followed up with a supplemental report also, correct?
I did.
Officer, may I approach, Your Honor? witnessed?
Yes, you may.
Officer, these are just partial pages of your initial report and supplemental report, specifically this paragraph and this paragraph. And it's my understanding each time you spoke with Ms. Blaisdell, correct?
Yes,
And is it fair to say she indicated how Marshall's on your initial report? She indicated that she witnessed that assault on Marshall.
I believe so, yes.
Is that what your initial report says, where I showed you on the last lines there?
Yes,
Okay, and then you were asked to go back 3 days later for a supplemental report, correct?
correct.
And you also discussed the incident with Ms. Blaisdell, correct?
Correct.
And what if anything, based on your knowledge, let me back up. You wrote a supplemental report, correct?
Yes.
And that supplemental report, there's a page there. Would you read that one just to yourself, that paragraph on the supplemental report?
With her?
Yes, please, yes.
Okay.
And based on what you're reading, was there a discrepancy whether or not she witnessed the incident?
Yes,
In fact, is your supplemental report, is your belief that she did not witness the assault of Marshall, correct?
I'm gonna object to whatever this officer's belief is, and he can testify to.
Okay.
Stay.
Did she tell you that she witnessed the incident at first, and then the supplemental report she didn't witness the assault on Marshall? I'm sorry, I don't mean to confuse you. You spoke with Tiffany
I did.
initially.
Trying to phrase,
Per that police report, the initial police report, she claimed Marshall was defending her, and that's how Marshall got his injuries. And 3 days later, you were asked to go back and write a supplemental report. And my belief, you spoke with Tiffany, and at that time, for that police report that you wrote, she stated she did not witness the assault on Marshall. Fair?
yes,
For the police report.
correct.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions. Ma'am?
Any redirect?
Excuse me.
Did you, Deputy Phillips, actually see the injury to Marshall's penis?
I did,
And that was photographed and admitted as Exhibit 10.
correct.
In your information from your investigation, is the defendant Jeffrey Bloom caused that injury to Marshall's penis?
Correct.
No other questions.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down. Thank you, sir. Call you
No
to.
further witnesses, Your Honor.
All right.
No witnesses, Your Honor.
We would move for bind over on the felony counts contained within the information. I believe that the testimony of Tiffany Blaisdell does support bind over on count 1 that the defendant Jeffrey Bloom did engage in sexual penetration with Tiffany Blaisdell under circumstances involving the commission of another felony, to wit, the strangulation. Marshall Brown's testimony that we heard earlier in September does support bind over on count 2 that Jeffrey Wayne Bloom did engage in sexual contact with another person, Marshall Brown, causing personal injury to Mr. Brown and using force or coercion to accomplish the sexual act. Mr. Brown described in detail the assault on himself, how he was humiliated by it, and the injury was documented to his penis. So I believe that that's supports binding over on count 2. Count 3 is a lesser included of count 1, the criminal sexual conduct during the commission of a felony, that the defendant did engage in penetration with Tiffany Blaisdell using force or coercion to accomplish the sexual penetration. If the jury were to find that the penetration did not occur during the course of a felony, I would be asking that they that they would convict on count 3 that he engaged in sexual penetration with Tiffany Blaisdell using force or coercion. Furthermore, Tiffany Blaisdell's testimony supports a count 4 that he made an assault upon Tiffany Blaisdell by strangulation or suffocation. Her testimony supported that today, that he was actually, as I'm arguing this final remnant, actually asked that the language be included because he was punching her about the face. So that should actually be. This is the GBH.
Yes.
And it only reads by strangulation, and it should be that the defendant did make an assault upon Tiffany Blaisdell with the intent to do great bodily harm less than the crime of murder and or by strangulation or suffocation. So I would amend count 4 to read that with the intent to do great bodily harm less than the crime of murder and or by strangulation or suffocation.
Very understood.
And likewise, the language on count 1, the criminal sexual conduct during the felony would be during the felony to wit assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than murder or by strangulation.
Understood.
And I believe Marshall Brown's testimony also supports find over on count 5. He was really specific in his testimony about how the defendant was strangling him. And how he had a raspy voice after that. Unlawful imprisonment for count 6 and 7. I believe that both the testimony of Tiffany Blaisdell and Marshall Brown that they could not leave. They believed it was a real gun that the defendant possessed, and they were restrained in the apartment and could not leave the apartment. So I believe for probable cause purposes, there is sufficient testimony from both of them to support a binder on count 6 and 7. I would be moving to add count 8, an additional count of criminal sexual conduct in the first degree. Ms. Blaisdell described 2 penetrations, penis to vagina, and then the forced oral penetration where the defendant was hitting her and putting his penis into her mouth. So there is an additional count 8 of CSC during a felony for the second penetration on Ms. Blaisdell. And count 9, the second penetration using force or coercion would be a CSC third that he engaged in sexual penetration with Tiffany Blaisdell using force or coercion. So count 1 would be the vaginal penetration, count 3 is the vaginal penetration, count 8 and 9 are the penis to mouth penetration.
Gotcha. Got it.
And we would ask that the matter be bound over to circuit court.
I'm sorry, can you explain count 9 again one more time? I'm trying to write this down.
Sure.
Yeah.
Count 1 is CSC
No,
1
no,
during
count 9.
Count 9 is basically count 3 with the oral penetration.
Right, so count 9 is a CSC third force or coercion, penis to mouth.
Your Honor,
Yes.
at the probable
Response.
cause standard, I will leave it at the court's discretion. The brief time I had to speak with my client, he believed there was a lot of misinformation and frankly lies given by the victim in this matter, but for purposes of.
I thought he couldn't hear.
Pardon me?
Nothing. Go ahead.
No, it's true. It's true. He would hear parts of it, Jed. So I'm gonna make a record.
This is a part.
You can hear parts of it.
Okay.
But again, for purposes of at the low standard of probable cause, I believe this court has enough for a bind over in this matter. I don't necessarily agree with the counts 8 and 9, but Your Honor, I believe to the court's discretion.
The court, after listening to the testimony in this case and hearing the testimony of both Ms. Brown and Ms. Blaisdell, the court does believe that people have sustained their burden of showing by probable cause the offenses and as amended as it regards the underlying felony as to count 1 and count 8, as well as to count 4 with its amendment, with its amended language to include harm to the individual less than the crime of murder. The court does believe that the people have sustained their burden on each and every count, including the requested added counts of 8 and 9 of CSC 1 and CSC 3, and therefore the defendant is bound over in this case to stand trial on all 9 counts.
Your Honor, for purposes of arraignment, the way the reading of the information, client to stand mute, we would ask for a trial date.
Defendant having waived formal reading as to all 9 counts, standing mute, court will enter a not guilty plea as to those counts. Pretrial will be set for
November 17th at 1:30 with Judge O'Brien.
November 17th, 2022, 1:30, Judge O'Brien. In that case, the defendant's bond will continue as denied.
And I will present a new felony information to counsel and to the court prior to the pre-trial results.
Very good. All right, are we ready on the next matter?
Yes, sir.
Specifically, the court does call the case of People versus Jeffrey Wayne Bloom, 22 FB 1276.
Good evening, Your Honor. Amy Reiser, being on behalf of the people.
Hold on one moment. I lost it.
Jeffrey,
Hold it. The jail's off. They need to log back in. They thought we might be done. Yeah, they may not have. You let them know.
Unmuted. Ask who? There's no one there.
Yes, sir.
How do I ask? I don't know. The judge isn't there. I don't see anybody.
You're trained to ask.
Hello? Hello?
You may be seated.
Hello?
The court,
Muted you.
can you. The court has called the case of the People versus Jeffrey Bloom, that being case 22 FB 1276. Counsel, state your appearances.
Amy Reiser, on behalf of the people.
good evening, Your Honor. Robert G. Poole on behalf of Jeffrey Bloom. And Your Honor, just for the record, I would like to incorporate all the objections I made about my client not being here on case 22 FB 1278 FY into 22 FB 1276 FY, Your Honor.
And the court will incorporate its rulings into that, and the defendant will remain where he is.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Reiser, this is a date, time for preliminary examination. You may proceed.
People with contact being Charter Hill about.
Your Honor, if the other deputy is also going to testify, I ask that he be sequestered, Your Honor.
Deputy Rob is the officer in charge, so he'll be seated to my left.
All right, then the officer in charge may remain in the room.
Sorry.
It's late.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. See,
Thank you, sir. Can you tell the court where it is that you're employed
The Washington County Sheriff's Office
and in what capacity?
as a deputy sheriff.
And were you working in your capacity as a deputy sheriff on August 22nd, 2022?
I was.
And were you dispatched to Rosen's Way, apartment A1?
Yes.
And is that located in Ypsilanti Township, Washington County?
Yes.
And approximately what time did you receive the dispatch?
Approximately 6:32 p.m.
And what was the nature of the dispatch?
I can't recall exactly how many calls it was, but I know there was at least one call for subject on the porch of that address saying that we were looking for him, for the guy that was there.
And did you have an identity of the suspect when you responded that you were looking for?
Yes, we were looking for Jeffrey.
And did you have information about Mr. Bloom?
During briefing for the day, the night shift that was coming off advised that they had established probable cause for arrest for Jeffrey Bloom for kidnapping, criminal sexual conduct first, criminal sexual conduct second.
And are you familiar with what Mr. Bloom looks like?
Yes.
And can you tell the court how you were dressed when you proceeded to the scene?
I was dressed just like I am today in my full Class B uniform.
And were you driving a police vehicle
I was driving a marked police vehicle,
with lights?
lightly fired.
And what happened when you arrived at 502 by Boston's Way?
I angled my patrol vehicle towards the porch of 5025 Boston's Way, apartment 81. I could see two subjects sitting on the porch. I activated my lights, which activated my body camera and infrared video. I started approaching, and I noticed one subject sitting there who we later identified as Marshall. I had not had contact with him prior. And next to him was Jeffrey.
You recognize Jeffrey Bloom?
Yes.
Okay, and did you give him any orders or commands?
Yes.
What did you do or say?
I told him to stand up. I told him that he was under arrest, and I told him to come to us.
And did he follow those commands?
He did stand up. He would not come to us.
Okay, and when you say us, was there another officer on scene with you?
I had Deputy Rob.
And was he in police uniform?
He was.
And so how many times did you tell Mr. Bloom to come to us?
I can't recall exactly. It was several.
Okay, and did he ever do that?
No.
What did he do?
He stayed on the porch where he was.
And what did you do?
I continued to advance towards Jeff. Deputy Rob also did that. As we got closer to him, Jeff took an offensive stance, put his right arm behind his back, and started reaching for his waistband. Typically, the type of stance where somebody's reaching for a weapon. And then he would instigate the situation, inching his arm towards us and saying, "Watch this, watch this."
Did you believe that he may have a weapon? in his
I
waist?
did.
So what did you do?
I drew my firearm, I pointed it at him. I continued to give him verbal commands.
And did he follow those commands?
He did not.
And what happened next?
Deputy Rob deployed his taser, which struck Jeffrey, immobilized him, and we took him to custody.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any other questions for you at this time.
Cross-examination.
Just very briefly, officer, you wrote a report to this matter, correct?
Correct.
And in your report, it says that, I also know Jeffrey to often confront police and be in possession of deadly weapons.
Yes.
Is that your statement? Or is that your police report?
That's from my own personal knowledge of Jeffrey.
And what deadly weapons have you known in the past that he had?
I know several instances where he's been in possession of knives, and he's had contact with the police.
And is that no guns?
I can't recall any specific instance with guns other than the one that was described to me during briefing, which they said he was in possession of a real looking gun.
Which turned out to be a BB gun.
Which ended up being a BB gun.
And how many, you said you know from having knives, and how many occasions would that have been?
I can't recall exactly. It's been at least two.
Two, okay. And you're saying that you were giving him commands and he was continuing to approach you?
He did not approach. He stood up and stood on the porch and took an offensive stance at us.
Did he say anything to you?
He was saying, "Watch this, as he looked at me, his hand behind his back towards me.
Okay, and you obviously you took that as a threat?
I did.
Okay, and where was Deputy Rob in relationship to you?
Deputy Rob was off to my right-hand side.
And was it fair to say you were in close proximity to each other?
Yes, I can't say exactly how far away he was, but we were close.
And again, I mean, later the point, were you closer to Jeffrey than Officer Rob?
I'd say we were pretty close to the same distance.
And was it light out, dark out?
It was still light out.
So it's your belief, and the taser, what color is the taser?
The taser is yellow, the body of the taser.
Okay, yes, okay. And you were aware that it was pulled out at some point by Deputy Rob?
Yes.
And did Jeff react at any point? I know you had your gun pointed at him. Did he say anything once the taser was pulled out?
I believe he did. I don't recall exactly what it was that he said.
You think it was a threat?
I can't recall. I can't say for sure.
Okay. And at some point you tasered her, correct?
I did not.
I mean, Deputy Rob.
Deputy Rob.
And how many times was it? I know he was tasered once, but are there barbs there?
There are two taser probes that come out per deployment. Deputy Rob discharged one taser cartridge. So two probes fired, and two probes made contact with Jeffrey, which immobilized him.
And those probes went through, and what was Jeffrey wearing at the time?
From my recollection, it was a t-shirt and jeans. The probes after Jeffrey fell to the ground came out of his body.
And can you just tell where, if you recall, where was he hit with the probes?
To the best of my recollection, one was in the leg and one was in the torso area.
And as a result, he fell.
Yes, he fell to the ground.
Was there any more resistance after that?
Yes, it was.
And what resistance followed that?
We had to muscle Jeffrey's arms behind his back to put handcuffs on him.
And were the tasers still in him, or are the tasers, are the barbs, the probes taken out at first?
I can't say for certain at what point the probes came out. All I know is that once we got Jeffrey up after he was in cuffs, the barbs had fallen off.
Okay, and I'm assuming once he was in cuffs, no more problems with them?
That's correct.
And just one last one, did he appear intoxicated
I can't say for sure.
or under the influence, or did he mumble anything, or?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you, I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
No, no.
All right, thank you. You may step down.
The people will call Deputy Thomas Rabb.
Sir, please come forward and be sworn. Okay, you may inquire.
Deputy Rabb, can you tell the court where you're employed
Washington County Sheriff's Office,
and in what capacity?
road patrol deputy.
And were you working in that capacity on August 22nd of this year, 2022?
I was.
And were you dispatched to Bozen's Way, apartment A1?
Yeah.
And what was the nature of the dispatch?
We the call came out as a report of a disorderly subject. It's also, I believe, the call screen also noted this was a follow-up because deputies had been out at that residence previously.
And were you looking for anyone in particular when you arrived at the scene?
Yes, we're looking for Jeffrey.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
And did you have a physical description, or did you know what he looked like?
I believe I had one prior contact with Mr. Bloom, and I also refreshed my memory of his Michigan Secretary of State driver's license photo
On your way to the scene.
on the way to the scene.
And tell us what happened when you arrived to the apartment.
I was following my own fully marked patrol vehicle behind Deputy Hillbuck's patrol vehicle. We both pulled into the complex in front of the apartment. There's an open air patio to the apartment. When we pulled up, I exited my patrol car, saw two subjects on the patio. Deputy Hillbuck and I approached the patio, recognized one of the subjects to be Mr. Bloom. Deputy Hillbuck began telling Mr. Bloom he was under arrest, come over to us.
And did Mr. Bloom do that?
He stood up from his seat, I believe he was seated, and he stood up when he saw us arrive, but he remained on the patio.
And were you in your police uniform?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at some point during that encounter, did you give Mr. Bloom commands?
I did. I let Deputy Hillbuck give the initial commands when we were approaching. Mr. Bloom stood up, took an aggressive stance toward us, started glaring and grimacing, or making those expressions on his face. When he stood up and put his right hand behind his back, reaching towards his waistband. And since we had prior knowledge that he was known to be armed, and as per the last call for service, then we believe he had a firearm. We drew our service weapons. I told him to remove his hand from behind his back, that he knew under arrest, and come over to us.
And did he do that? Okay. And did you specifically give him orders to remove his hand behind his back?
I did. I told him numerous times to show us.
And didn't do that? And what happened?
Some other deputies were also arrived on scene. They had their firearms out, so I holstered my firearm and my taser. Armed it and pointed at Mr. Bloom. I gave him 3 more commands, with ample time for him to reply or respond. I told him to take his hands out from behind his back, or I was going to tase him. I told him that statement 3 times. He told him that for those 3 chances for opportunities. Then I gave him a warning, taser, and deployed my taser.
Now we're in the home stretch. The prosecutor is asking the judge to bind Jeffrey Bloom over on multiple serious counts, including 2 counts of resisting and obstructing officers, plus the underlying CSC charges. Deputy testimony was strong. Both officers described Bloom taking an aggressive stance, reaching behind his back, and saying, "Watch this," while they tried to arrest him. The judge has clearly had enough of the delays and drama. This moment is crucial because if the judge finds probable cause, Bloom is heading to circuit court for trial on these felonies. You can feel the weight of the decision. The judge is carefully weighing everything that's happened today and in previous hearings. The big question here, will Bloom's constant disruptions and threats finally catch up to him, or will he get another chance to fight these charges? The tension in the courtroom is thick.
What happened to Mr. Bloom?
It appeared that Katie Barnes struck Mr. Bloom, and he fell kind of sat down backwards.
And were you able to place him under arrest at that time?
Yes, we were.
And did he resist any further?
From what I recall, he was trying to pull his arms in, towards his chest, and deputies had to muscle to pull his arms back behind his back in order to get some blood.
After Mr. Bloom was secured in custody, did you make contact with any of the residents?
I went inside to check on the residents. I spoke with Mr. Brown and also with Ms. Blaisdell.
And what was Ms. Blaisdell's demeanor?
She appeared very agitated and frightened. I can see the injuries on her face from the previous incident that were noted in Deputy Phillips' report. Ms. Blaisdell stated that she
Your
did not-
Honor, that's hearsay statement.
You don't have to tell us.
Thank you.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Deputy.
Deputy Rob, just a couple questions. You ride by yourself in your own vehicle?
Correct. I was in my own vehicle, but I was driving behind.
And so was Deputy Philbuck the first one to approach Mr. Bloom?
Well, it was fairly simultaneous. We were both exited our patrol cars.
And you said he took an aggressive stance, and he glanced and he sneered at you, is that what you said?
Glared and grimaced, like maybe grimacing expression on his face, that he did not appear to be happy that we were making contact.
But he didn't say it, I mean, other than that, he didn't say anything.
Correct.
Okay. And he was given command to pull his arm back, correct, off his back.
Correct, to bring his arm out of choice.
Okay. And at some point you said you holstered your weapon and you pulled out a taser.
Yes.
And did you say, I know what you said to Jeffrey, but how far away were you from Jeffrey when you tasered him?
Hard for me to say that. I had to guess 20 feet, maybe
Really?
25 feet. It's
I
hard for
didn't
me
know
to guess
taser,
without being there again.
I didn't know a taser goes that far, but.
We had newly issued tasers that have a great range.
All right, and in your training for a taser, when you're going to taser somebody, is there a specific body part you go for?
You try to aim for pretty much not the heart area. Preferred taser deployment is on somebody's back, but it's not always available due to obviously exigent circumstances. So you try to aim for a lower portion of the body so you don't hit sensitive areas like the face.
Okay, and then once the probes hit him, he fell.
Correct. He kind of sat down backwards.
And then it's your testimony further that he was giving the officers a hard time to handcuff him.
Correct.
All right. And did he, during that time, was he making any threats to anybody?
I remember that he was saying something while we were trying to put him into custody. I don't recall exactly what he said.
Okay. And then once he was handcuffed, was there any other obstruction or?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Did you take him to the police station?
Another deputy did.
And just as you approached them, I should back up a little bit, you did recognize Jeffrey as one of the people on the porch?
I did.
Okay. All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did forget to ask Deputy Rob, I do have a question. You identified the defendant on the Zoom screen, the individual that you've seen on the Zoom screen?
Yes.
I believe he's there right at this moment, but is that Jeffrey Bloom who you've attempted to take into custody yet?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Any questions based upon that? Mr. Cook? All right, thank you. And just before you make your argument or your motion, council should be aware that during Deputy Hillebuck's testimony, the door was closed to the cell because, and I don't know if you saw it at the time, Mr. Bloom took toilet paper, threw it out, trying to strike the tablet. So, but he is there and listening if he chooses. All right, go ahead, Ms.
Your Honor, we're moving for bind over on the two felony counts connecting with the new information. I believe that Deputy Rob and Deputy Hillebuck's testimony support bind over on an RNO that the defendant did assault, batter, wound, resist, obstruct, oppose, or endanger Deputy Thomas Rob, a police officer of the Washington County Sheriff's Office. That the defendant had reason to know was performing his duties, and that he did assault, batter, wound, resist, obstruct, oppose, or endanger Deputy Hillebuck, Trevor Hillebuck, a police officer of the Washington County Sheriff's Office, that the defendant knew or had reason to know was performing his or her duties.
Mr. Kilowell,
Your Honor, based on the probable cause standard, I'll leave it to the court's discretion.
all right. And in this matter, the court, having listened to the testimony, the court would find that the people have sustained their burden and of showing that the two counts of resisting and obstructing a police officer have been shown, one involving Deputy Hillebuck, the other involving Deputy Rob. And the court would bind the defendant over on counts 1 and 2. Yes.
For purposes of arraignment, Your Honor, we waive its reading. My client would stand mute. We ask for the November 17th pre-trial date.
Defendant having waived formal reading, standing mute. The court will enter a not guilty plea.
Commissioner, I have a condition.
Yeah, sending it over to you now.
Is there a violence matter, Your Honor?
Not guilty plea. Court will enter a not guilty plea. Pretrial will be set for
November 17th at 1:30 with Judge O'Brien.
November 17th, 2022, 1:30 before Judge O'Brien. As to bond in this case, would you have it? I should have it on this form, but it's not there. Oh, yes. His bond in this is $50,000 cash as surety. Bond will continue in this manner. All right, folks, thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have to take you from any nightly entertainment you might be doing tonight.
Nice sleep. All right, no, you didn't get that far into the evening. All right, thank you, folks. Everybody have a good holiday and stay safe, please. 14A stands adjourned.
In today's hearing, Judge Simpson adjourned the cases involving Jeffrey Wayne Bloom while firmly ruling that due to threats against staff and prior disruptions, Bloom would not be permitted in the physical courtroom. He will have to participate via Zoom or risk proceeding without being present. This session perfectly demonstrates how judges handle extremely difficult and disruptive defendants, balancing due process with safety and courtroom integrity. If you found this chaotic and intense hearing as wild as we did, smash that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the judge made the right decision keeping him out? And subscribe for more raw, dramatic courtroom footage and breakdowns. See you in the next one.